And Chronicles, tasks awaiting the new managing director of the National Social Security Fund, and what is on the road to redemption for the savers, and what is in it for the welfare landscape within the country. I'll be introducing my guests very shortly, just after this preamble. Following the NSSF Board of Directors' recommendation to the Minister of Gender, Betty Amongi, Patrick Ayota, who's been the acting MD for NSSF since the dust was elevated to now full managing director for the Savers Fund. The appointment comes amidst an ongoing case against the minister that was filed by the former managing director, Richard Byarugaba, seeking reinstatement for the position he served until a year ago. So, is it a bit of redemption on the part of the minister? Does it pose the question of continuity, or is it something that again puts the National Social Security Fund in the throes of controversy? I'm joined on the show by Honorable Paul Omara, the MP for Otuke County and a member of the Committee on Finance in Parliament. I'm also joined by Fred Muhumuza, renowned economist and commentator, for us to be able to have the best possible perspective on this. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me begin with Honorable Paul Omara. As a member of the Finance Committee, you are involved
Yes, please.
in the goings on within the National Social Security Fund. The latest is not a spanner in the works, but a case of sour graping, if anybody can describe it as such, going to court on the part of the former managing director, Patrick Byarugaba, seeking reinstatement, and of course that petition being filed against the Minister for Gender. What do you make of that development before we can go into the nitty-gritty of what's the way forward for NSSF in light of the appointment of Patrick Ayota?
Thank you very much, and good morning, viewers. First, I think the Parliament was very intentional and very clear about what they had envisaged in the law. The law says that the board will recommend a candidate to the Minister of Gender for appointment. It's a recommendation, it is not a directive. And therefore, the minister can accept the recommendation or reject the recommendation. So, which means the law gives the minister the powers to appoint on the recommendation of the board. Secondly, the matter has now been overtaken by events. There is no vacancy at NSSF now as we talk. A new managing director has been appointed. The third thing is that when you reach retirement age and your contract is not renewed, there is no way you can say that I still have a job. I would want to give you an example as a member of Parliament. Every 5 years, we go back to the electorate to renew our mandate.
That's right.
If you are not re-elected as an MP, would you say you still have a vacancy in Parliament of Uganda? That's why we have the new MPs of the 11th Parliament and former MPs. And you know, the attrition rate was very high, almost 80%. Those ones who are defeated, they are home. So if you are on a contract job, I've been on a contract job across the globe, and when that contract ends, unless it's renewed, you have no job, because your contract is up to a particular period of time. So I am a kind of sad. I don't know whether my brother, Mr. Byarugaba, has been adequately and properly advised. Yeah, I think it's a pursuit in futility. I don't see an outcome at all.
Dr. Fred Muhumuza, I bet you will agree with Paul Omara, but I want you to help us understand the weight or the repercussions on the corporate landscape when a giant of the space like Patrick Byarugaba fails to understand that the ground has shifted beneath him?
Yeah, thank you very much. Real, as you've put it, the corporate landscape, and I totally agree with the Honourable. Contracts are contracts. They have very many clauses when the contract comes to an end, but there are also clauses on how either party can terminate the contract.
That's right.
And some contracts will be, you get caught up in two things. One is the age limit, but also the contract has ended.
It has ended, yeah.
So you have so many of those complications. But it really speaks, talking about the corporate space, people to know that a corporation is not your own personal business. Even your own personal business, you want to let go. But there are certain decisions that require younger and faster thinking, which is always typical with younger people. Or maybe other planning for succession is very, very critical. I've been on boards where a discussion, policies, guidelines are all put in. Every time a board sits, and I can gladly say at World Vision, we have to sit and say who is supposed to exit. So there is a whole timeline. You are there for 3-year contracts. Maximum is 3 times, so you can only be there for 9 years.
That's right.
You can leave earlier than the 9 years, but certainly not beyond,
not beyond 9 years.
the 9 years. And every time the board sits, we review who is leaving next year. What skill are we losing? Do we still need that skill so that we begin to look for a similar skill? What gender are we losing? Because they have the global requirement.
Yes.
These are guidelines. There's a global requirement, at least 30%. I remember a board I was sitting on, and I was supposed to go to the international board to represent my country, but also because the country, it was a slot for Uganda to send a candidate to the international board.
Yes.
But then we reviewed the international board profile. We said, hey, we are short of women. So if you come as a man, you're going to get us out of line with the global requirement that at least 30%.
Yes.
So I said my position. I said, one of my board members, where is the lady here?
Yes.
One of the ladies, go and represent us.
Yes.
This is the governance level you want to get to, that as somebody is leaving, and I'm glad the minister, and I think at NSSF, you needed continuity and stability. Ayota has been there more than 10 years, so he understands the fund. You can advertise, but possibly at this point in time, knowing what the fund has been going through at the deputy position. You don't want to advertise at the top because you don't know who you get. You might get another cantankerous fellow, and as we're saying now, the contract issues come in and say, I have my contract for 3 years. So why don't you move faster and say, let's stabilize the ship? As Mr. Museveni in his letter with the World Bank wrote, these guys helped us to stabilize the macroeconomics.
Yes.
You cannot develop with unstable macroeconomics. So let's first stabilize the ship, put a person down, and I would want to see Ayota, one of his mandates and the minister, to make sure, come the end of this contract, we don't find ourselves in this situation. So one of his agendas should be succession planning, grooming the replacements, not just his deputy, could be anybody, but at least putting in place a measure that when finally the red light is in front of him, there will be another green light to allow the traffic to flow.
That is right.
Automatically.
Allow me just go back to Honorable Paul Amara. And in regard to governance and continuity, Patrick Ayota has been around as Chief Financial Officer for the corporation, for the fund for a long time. So you can say the new captain is formidable enough to ensure that the ship is stable. On the part of the minister, right now, there's a lot that needs to be done in terms of, first and foremost, renewing how, not renewing, but ensuring that the how of governance at NSSF is clear, so that we do not have what the doctor refers to as the red light appearing and then there is no green to allow for flow of traffic. Do you see, Minister, among his commitment to this?
Yeah, because what has already been happening is that the board and the management have already been implementing some of the recommendations that came out from Parliament, and also the recommendations from the IGG. I think there was a big issue around corporate governance. I think that is something that the board will have to look at and make sure it does not repeat. The manner in which some of the issues were done, and either oversights or sheer incompetence and things like that. They will have to deal with those corporate governance issues. The minister has exercised her mandate. In fact, the board and the minister, the fiduciary responsibility of making sure there is a managing director in place. And I hope that they will go and, as Dr. has said, to advertise for the position of the deputy managing director, and making sure, you know, the recommendation about how NSSF will have to do things are followed. One of the things that I'm happy about, I've been reading in the news, seeing that, because you remember that one of the responsibilities they need to undertake is to implement the new law, which basically ensures that those who are not in formal employment also come and make a contribution.
That's right.
To the fund. So they have been moving around the country. They were in central here, northern, eastern, and recently I think in western Uganda, basically talking to the informal sector to making sure that they deposit. So my belief is that the minister is committed, and the board, to making sure that this big giant does not sink. Because if you look at the performance of the fund, I think it has been growing. If you look at from July last year to December, the fund was growing on a monthly figure of 128 billion every month. But from January to June, it had been growing at 145 billion per month. In fact, the month of June was 192 billion.
Meaning there was a market reduction there. No. Okay, 128 to 140.
It's been growing from 128 to July to December.
That's an increase. Yeah.
Now, January to June, on a monthly average of 145 billion.
Okay.
But to give you the month of June alone was 192 billion. So which means the fund is what? The fund is growing, and the efforts of reaching out to the informal sector for them to begin to save using the new law is beginning to take effect.
Okay.
So I am positive that if the board, the management focus and implement the new law judiciously, that fund will grow.
Okay, we shall be delving into the financials very shortly to understand exactly the specifics of performance with regard to where and which investment vehicles the money has been put into. But just allow me delve a little more on the hygiene at National Social Security Fund. On the outside, for us, we are looking at the hygiene issues, and for Patrick Ayota, we're going to have to see a little bit of cleaning here and there so that the dust can, when a visitor comes in, all you see is a bit of order.
Yes.
Behind the scenes, that's where the work is. What is in it for Mr. Ayota right now in terms of the impetus as a new managing director? What does he have to look at or drive?
I think he's been looking at all these spaces. As you've mentioned, he was chief finance officer for a period. I think the last 5 years he was a deputy managing director, which is very close to where he is now. And in this period he has even been acting managing director. So I don't think he's going to find any fresh page landing on his desk. All these pages have been coming there. He's been reading them and signing them off and sending them back and giving comments. So you're already having there were two captains, and so in the plane cockpit, he's been there. He knows the route, he knows the terrain, he knows how difficult landing and taking off an aircraft is.
That's right.
So I think cleaning up will be easier. He only needs to avoid, and as we've said, he's been in it. Because sometimes a new person comes and says, I don't like this person here, I don't like that desk there, I don't like this color here. I don't like
color codes.
Color codes and stuff like that.
Don't bring my folders anymore in this kind of color.
And please ensure you knock.
Change my
It's
chair.
not an open door policy of my office.
Having been there will really give some people comfort. There might be those who may not get comfort because they were patrons. Systems like this do happen. I'm told whenever the president of the US changes, over 20,000 people in the Washington area have to move.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
I didn't know the U.S. president actually appoints so many people.
they do.
Yeah, so
It's
many.
big.
So many.
That establishment is
People who are going to work
Yes.
on the liking of the president.
So we don't expect so much, but the main thing here is how do we play around with the governance?
Sure.
And the MD is so central to the governance. It supervises him, but it's really the engine that helps the law to get operationalized.
Yeah.
Identification of the people to come in, their packages, and sometimes you see people will take advantage and say, oh, I want the board to approve this for me, so let me raise their rate. Now it is kind of the rock and the hard place. You're like, can I reject this? But I'm also rejecting mine. So you're really manipulating and managing the board. The board. So he needs to make sure the laws and rules and guidelines that govern governance are operationalized. The right people, the board is getting the right papers, is getting the right documentation.
That's right.
I've talked to some of them. There are certain governance courses they ought to do. And quite often these are organized by management. So we're bringing in the Institute of Corporate Governance. We are bringing in this expert in governance from wherever they are. Don't take them to Dubai. You can bring the other guy here. It will be one ticket rather than taking 7 tickets. And you may find the other guy is also not based in Dubai.
You know,
so we will also charge you to
come from
come
the UK
to Dubai.
to Dubai.
So
you know?
there are certain courses these people must do. I remember one time I was reviewing their proposals, and people were saying the board and the minister shall appoint the MD. I said, no, 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 no. The minister appoints the board. You can now not downgrade the minister to work with the board in appointing. The board must recommend.
Yes.
And then, as you have said, the minister
There's a
is
recipe
taking
for
it
tension.
as a recommendation.
Yes, yes.
So, but you could see that people are crafting the law to bring the minister to that board level. And we
yes.
said, no, 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 keep the minister
Away.
out of this.
Yes.
Make a recommendation. He or she has the right to say yes
Or no.
or no, and live to see the light of the day. So we need to emphasize this, and I'm sure Patrick Ayota will see to this, so that, as we've said, in future the switches are clear. When it's red here, some green must come on.
Okay. All right, let's now dig into the financials, National Social Security Fund. Of course, many times as a journalist, I should have done a lot of research so to bring out some of what is not going right with regard to the financials, but that will be riding the wave of pessimism and wanting to be seen as the prophet of doom. I don't want to be seen as the prophet of doom, but you are aware of the financials. Just like you said, there was a growth from 128 billion to 148, and that staggering 191 for the specific month of June. Just take us through that in a more clear and targeted way.
I think this should be my opening statement on, on this one. I want every saver outside there to be very confident and have an assurance that his or her money is safe with NSSF. NSSF now is an 18.5 trillion fund. And the target, the strategic target for 2025 was 20 trillion shillings. So they are going to hit that number before 2025, because now they're on 18.5. The strategic target for 2025 was 20 trillion, and they said if not this year, next year they will be at 20 trillion. So they would have achieved their strategic target. They also have a strategy for 2035 to be at 50 trillion fund
by 2035.
By 2035.
Wow.
It has taken NSSF 45 years to get to a 20 trillion fund. 45. It will be 45 years. But now their ambition is to grow to grow another 30 trillion in 10 years. You look at those numbers. They are not simple numbers. So to target to reach 50 trillion in 10 years, that is ambitious. It can only be done by an organization which is self-assured, which is confident in itself. So with the new law that we have given them, they are going to drive this growth in a very tremendous way. So I am excited about the strategic vision of NSSF. With this 18.5 trillion, 78% of that money is in fixed income. Aggregates, which is you either treasury bills and bonds. And then 8% is in mortgages. And then the other balance, which about 14% in equity. And so most of the equity placements are either in Nairobi or Dar es Salaam. And if you look at 78% of the portfolio, that is cash. It's basically safe.
Yeah.
And even with the recent law where now they call it early repayments, what is the term they use? Midterm access. Even with midterm access, and also the retirees and those who are coming for their monies, NSSF is what is liquid. So they can meet their cash flow obligations without any problem. They can meet the midterm requirements of the savers without any problem.
Okay.
And their gross projections is actually smart and is achievable.
Okay, before I return to Dr. Muhumuza, there is something you've just hinted on, the fact that they can still meet obligations, especially with regard to midterm access. There has been a bit of another twist to this whole thing, where there are those who are seeking that the requirement for 10-year saving, consistent saving with the fund, be abolished, to allow for anybody who might be 45 and has only saved with the fund for at least 6 years to access the 20%. It's only a proposal, but one that should be coming on the table of tables of parliament for discussion. What is in it for you?
NSSF was formed to protect the interests of the savers.
Yeah.
So if it's in the wisdom of the board, based on recommendation from management, and basically pushback comes from savers that this is what should be done, I think they should be bold enough to present it. We shall look at the law, and if it is required, it will be amended accordingly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dr. Muhumuza, Honorable Mara spoke about what appears to be very good financials, and for anybody there who was a bit uneasy, perhaps there is a lot more confidence right now, but we must agree that across the globe, especially when you look at inflationary pressures that the United States is dealing with, there is volatility in regard to fixed income spaces. And if we have money in fixed income, then that means we're going to have to pay attention. Mortgages, pretty good. Equity, I don't know much about how that is playing out. Perhaps you could help us throw more light on that. But the financials are good. You agree?
Yes, the financials look good.
Ah.
The thing about
I love the choice of word.
The thing about financials is economists and statisticians have come up with what they call a net present value.
Yeah.
Because the fund is in the future.
Yeah,
that's right.
I've not accessed my money, and I might have some 200 or 100 million there. I intend to access it in 5 years' time or 2 years' time. What is it as of now as we make a decision? So you try to bring in all the future risks and what they call discounting.
Yes.
You also want to do a forecasting. As we've said, the bulk of the money is invested in, say, for example, Umeme. Is invested in UTL, in MTN. So you want to say, what is MTN in 2030? Because that begins to impact on the fund. Umeme will not be there as the government has decided in 2025. So there is a question mark there. What is the fund's share in Umeme? So you want to begin putting those risks and assumptions into the equation. And one of the things that the new MD needs to really work on is what in corporate governance and at board level we say, what is the risk register? What risks are we facing? What is the likelihood that they occur? So you put a probability there. Is it small? Is it big? And when they occur, what is the impact? How much am I exposed to those individuals? So a risk register and going into the futuristic aspects will be very, very critical. Actuaries are very good, and I want to believe NSSF being what it is, it has a good actuarial analysis. We have trained enough in the country as we speak to get a feel of, I might be big now, but I need to be big for the next 20 or 50 years, because some of my savers are not coming to me until 2045.
That's right.
Until 2030. Now, a lot of this is informed by the state of the economy. We saw when the Ghana's economy really went where it went, one of the things was also to discount the savings in the fund. And everybody struggled and said, please at least protect the fund.
That's right.
And that's why some of these dynamics of, can we allow some people to pull out their money and go and see what else they can do for themselves, but only up to 20%. So I think those are good economic, those are good economic management policies, because people have other options where they can go.
That's right.
But also this is good to stimulate the economy. Yeah.
Okay.
Can I add
very quickly in a minute?
Yes.
I'm approaching the top of the hour. I'm going to have to go for a break.
Okay. The risk issues that Doctor has referred to, if you look, we have over $1.2 billion in Kenya. And if there is any headwinds that NSSF has faced today, it's basically our investment in Kenya. Because the currency has deteriorated. So it means actually the money that we put in there in real terms is less than in the actual money.
That's right.
So if we were to disengage today, we would come back with less money. So that's the risk that we face. And unfortunately, all the NSSF money cannot sit in this country.
It can't.
We can't absorb it.
But we also capped it in the East African region. We may want to open
That's a very interesting one. You just revealed something that will make the discussion more juicier when we return. The fact that we cannot absorb the money that NSSF has. Many have said that being a financial behemoth that it is, there's got to be some consideration on how some of that money can be gotten out. And that has led to aspects, including allegations that some politicians intend to have their hand into the basket at NSSF. When we return from the break, we shall be looking at that and how reforms can be undertaken, especially that there is a new substantive managing director at the fund. Stay with us. Thank you very much, Stephen Mbide. That is our Stephen Mbide there on ground, bringing us up to speed with what is happening and the state of infrastructure that is on the road side within Kampala. Let me now return to the studio and continue with the discussion on settling waves in the Savers Fund Chronicles at National Social Security Fund, the task awaiting the newly appointed managing director, and of course whether the fund is actually now on the road to redemption. Somebody will ask, was there a need for redemption in the first place? Right now, let me return with a question on the ability of the fund to be an anchor for socio-economic transformation, especially when it comes to the ability to fund major projects in the country. We come on the backdrop of the fact that the World Bank has just closed the taps on aid, and some are saying we could look into other sources of income to be able to fund some of the big projects within this country. But the laws that are existing right now do not allow for the 18 trillion Uganda shillings that the National Social Security Fund sits on to be used. And the fact that within the next 10 years, the projection is to be a 50 million shilling fund, then trillion rather fund, that presents a whole new impetus for the ability to make investments from that money. Honorable Omara,
Yes, please.
there is need to rethink that. If the law is constraining the country's ability to use some of the money that is sitting in this financial behemoth, what is the way forward?
Thank you very much. With the World Bank closing taps, which would come to support our budget, there is a need now for us also to look inwards.
Yeah.
A country that has a big wealth of savings can actually do a lot of things with its money. If you look at now, we have about $700 million in the economy of Tanzania, about $1.2 billion in Kenya. We are basically supporting our neighbors' economies.
That's right.
Now, that money, we could actually have used it here. So we need to look at the law and see the limitations within the law so that the NSSF fund can be used for national strategic development. I would want to give about maybe 2 examples. Currently, we have this road, I think, which was supposed to be funded by World Bank. First of all, Kampala Infrastructures, and then this road going up to the border, to Malaba. Now, if we relook at the law, NSSF fund can be used to build this road up to Malaba. You need about maybe $200, $300 million. and then in about 3, 4, 5 years, this road would be completely completed, a dual carriage.
Yeah.
And we would put road tolls on the way. You just imagine how many vehicles go Jinja route up to Malaba on a daily. That would be a cash flow, a cash streams into the NSSF fund. Because as I've already told you, some of this money we have just thrown them across the borders, and yet we can just take a small portion and use it to build infrastructure. First of all, we are not going to borrow. This money is already with us, and it's our own money, and we are going to use it to build a public good. But that public good is a cash flow for NSSF, for us, the savers.
That's right.
That's one thing we can do. The second one
Excuse me.
is Omeme. Omeme is exiting in 2025. Government has already taken a firm decision on that. But Omeme has to be paid on the final day. Some commensurate amount of money.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now, NSSF can invest in Omeme. But just imagine us. NSSF is us, by the way. We actually buy Omeme. How much money actually on a daily basis do we pay to Omeme? Really? On a daily? This electricity thing here?
Yeah.
Daily. So that is a cash flow into Omeme. And if it is well managed, currently we have very many good Ugandans who are good managers and leaders. The Ugandan human resource has moved on tremendously. If you look at banks, we quite have now a number of managing directors who are Ugandans, well trained.
Yeah.
In the field of engineering,
Including the one of Umeme.
including the one of Omeme is a Ugandan.
Mabonji.
Yes, so we already have the managers and the skills in place.
Yeah.
What we just need to say, Omeme, thank you very much. You have been here. Here's your money. So you find that NSSF will shift its portfolios from actually having 78% of its money on fixed income, which is actually very risky. As I was already telling you in Nairobi, when the markets move, you have to deal with the risk. Yeah, I'm not saying that in enterprises like this one there is no risk. The risks are there. But you see, you're using your money for national strategic investment, which is going to generate a lot of cash for you. We don't have to be in debt. We don't have to go and borrow money from the World Bank to come and pay Omeme. You know, we have our own citizens who have come together. And that will encourage many more of us to say, after all, this is owned by us.
That's right.
And it gives us that sense of national pride and confidence. So I would want to encourage the public there that this thing of government is stealing our money, going to take our money away. I think we should lower down on that. We should be able to open up and say, by the way, we have a lot of cash here, which can be used for key strategic development.
What you're suggesting is that we should cut the government some slack and give it the benefit of the doubt when it comes to handling money.
Absolutely.
Despite the fact that there has been a history.
And there are still good Ugandans out there. There are patriots outside there who love this country and are not willing to see this money go anywhere else.
Dr. Mhumza, that sounds like a solid economic argument, but there are proponents of social welfare who are uneasy when that argument begins to come up, especially when it comes to safeguarding the fund and the ability to deal with the social welfare aspects of the people. I don't know, just thresh it out for us.
No, interesting. You get back to why is the minister appointing the managing director and the board?
Okay.
This is our money. Private sector money. Government doesn't even have a penny there.
Yeah.
So how did government come in? Because what we call contingent liability. We are putting our money into NSSF not because we chose to.
That's right.
Because there is a law.
There is a law that mandates that.
Passed by government. So government says, now that I force these individuals to put their money here, I must make sure it is safe. So allow me, through again the law, to protect, to put a mechanism in place to protect your money. Because if ever the fund goes under, all of us will rise up against government.
Of course.
That's the contingent liability of government. You must compensate us. So the government is already in charge of that space through whichever minister has put in place. That's number one. Two, the bulk of our NSSF money is already with government anyway. So when I hear people saying government wants to take our money, it has already taken it.
It has already taken it.
It has issued bonds,
and
in which NSSF has invested.
It's a key player.
So the bulk of the fund is actually already with government. So the question should no longer be, government, don't take our money. It should be, what are you doing with our money to meet the social function and objective?
Yes.
Which is what Honorable is raising.
That's right.
What kind of investment should government be putting this money into that have a social and economic return to me and you? In Tanzania, some of these funds have been used to build universities. Now, university is a monster thing. It will pay salaries.
Yes.
It will also skill people.
That's right.
It will do research. Things that come back to the community.
To the community, yes.
I know Makerere is rebranding. They are saying it's our job is to teach, research, and community business.
Yes.
Give back to the community. So you want to begin asking these questions. When government issues a bond and NSSF puts 2, 3, 4, 5 trillion into government, what did that money go to do? Don't just throw it in the pool that is going to fly officials abroad. So me and you should be saying, hey, wait a minute, part of my money is in the government budget, domestic borrowing.
That's right.
What are you doing with that money? You should be rising up to say, Mr. Government, scale down your excesses, because I want to see this fund help me. The third part is actually, as I've said, NSSF is a function of the economy. If we perform better, we pay better. And that's why you want to go back and say, hey, can the World Bank walk out and NSSF walks in? Part of what NSSF is receiving are people working on World Bank projects. They make a contribution, 15%. And remember, these are some of the best paid officials.
Yeah.
Somebody is earning 20 million, 15% of that is over 3 million.
That's
This guy every month is putting 3 million into the fund. So economics is really a web like a spider web.
That's right.
You cannot say cut off that one and let this one go. No, you need all of it working to understand the implications and the dynamics. So already the suspension of the World Bank is a threat to the fund.
Yeah.
The fund might lose the 192 billion per month because some of these fellows were working in government projects.
Working with government projects.
Some of them were being triggered. You know, those dynamics, you want to analyze them. That's why I really want people not to say the World Bank is going, oh, we can do it with the bank. No, the bank's footprint is huge.
Yeah, huge.
So, and this is what I'm saying. One thing I expect of Patrick Ayota, a risk register. Which risks am I facing? Where are they? There are those that are internal. The bulk of what he wants to focus on are external. And I really want to see him focus on strategic level issues, which is what is actually the board business. Now the board delved deeper into the operational matters. My allowance here, my association should be funded, and they missed the big picture of what boards do. As a board, you're supposed to be telling the plane is up, what is the weather like, where we are going to land, where we are passing, is there a no-fly zone like now Nigeria has said don't fly here. But in case a plane has a problem, I still want to believe there's a provision. The government of Nigeria can be engaged to land that aircraft. That should be the board business. And then we'll be home and dry. Okay.
That's pretty interesting. Now, the average saver out there is hearing a lot of strategic level discussions.
Yes.
And is wondering,
yes,
what are these guys up to? Maika money, like the average Ugandan says.
Yes.
They want to understand exactly how best they can be part of this. They've heard of investments that are being undertaken by NSSF, including Lubowa. That one has been explained. It is not to allow a saver get a house. No. It is to put this house on the market for those that can afford it, and then that money later is translated into dividends for the saver. But there is need, as part of a reform process, to find products that resonate effectively with the average saver, so that they can be able to pick up quickly on the advantages of being part of it.
Yes.
And that is something that Patrick Ayota ought to pay attention to.
Yes.
In being able to push for strategic level investment, what is being done at basic level operation to allow for public confidence in the fund?
First, as you've said correctly, the savers outside there wants to have the confidence that their money is safe. Given the three portfolios we have indicated, the money is safe and is growing.
That's right.
Secondly, if we are going to invest this money, what kind of social good, how does it touch me? Now, the NSSF invested in that estate, which is very expensive. And one time it has been suggested that by working with the National Housing and Housing Finance Bank, NSSF can actually intermediate by providing a fund, a tripartite arrangement, so that we begin to build low-cost housing in real sense.
That's right.
Maybe about 50 million shillings. That might still look high, But to an average Ugandan there, 30 to 50 million, if you find a place, so that at least many of the young people who are contributing to the fund can have some money.
That's right.
Patrick, if you are listening to us, I think you need to consider that, so that these young people are getting married and they are in corporate institutions. They should have a place where they can live, which is affordable. That's something they need to work out strategically. And then, of course, as I've already mentioned, I would want to see the fund. We use this money for strategic investments. And the board and the management should look at if there is any lacuna in the law, we can actually look at amend it. So that we can put that money. Please buy Omeme by 2025. That's cash. The road to Malaba is cash.
You should petition officially. And
Doctor said something very interesting.
Yeah.
That the government through the central bank comes into the market through the money markets, bonds and treasury bills, and NSSF invests into it. Let me say 4 or 5 trillion, whatever amount that is. But the savers say, you know, government will always pay us. They sit and dream, but they don't know what that money is used for.
That's right.
But if, for example, we can actually now tell and say, our money is going into this particular investment with a social output, but also with a return in terms of cash, so that at least there is a promise every month, by the way, every financial year, NSSF Managing Director and the board would come and tell us how much we are going to, or we have already earned in a financial year, based on the returns which have come, so that we can actually increase the level of profitability of the fund, so that our savers, we keep on getting that money.
That's right.
It keeps on accumulating every year.
Doctor has the same question posed to him. How can the average saver, the Chris Higenyi here, who could be grappling with something as simple as a visit to the doctor that completely disorganizes his income, but has money seated with NSSF? Should there be some kind of insurance scheme that NSSF cooks up?
Yeah, these are really the strategy issues. An average saver doesn't have to understand the dynamics of strategy, but has to benefit from the dynamics of strategy.
That's right.
Yes.
Right, as you have raised it, if I'm going to pick my NSSF contribution in 2035, I need to be alive in 2035.
That's right.
So can I see the NSSF make sure I don't die in 2023, that I live to get to it? So you may want to say, Mr. Government, where do you take our money? Can we invest in the health system? We have just been grappling, and thanks to government, they finally resolved the intern issue. People were dying.
People were dying.
Yes.
So you want to say, whenever intern budgets come up, let part of the money you're picking from NSSF go to these areas.
Yes.
Because we begin to get a feel of this. 2 is what Honorable Mara has raised. NSSF is one of the biggest shareholders in Housing Finance Bank.
Yes.
This is a housing finance bank. This is one of the banks where the
Actually,
name speaks
49% of our
the name speaks to the purpose. You are a housing financing bank.
Yes.
Now, part of the problem we have today is NSSF money, which is a long-term asset, is being matched to short-term. Government will borrow to pay salaries. So you have a debt asset mismatch.
Okay.
This is a long-term fund. You want to match it with a long-term
investment asset.
And one of these, as is said, how can a person get a house of 50 million?
Yes.
On a mortgage from Housing
Finance Bank.
Of 15 years.
Built by National Housing.
By money from NSSF.
Yes.
You get a mortgage from, and NSSF just invests to increase its shareholding, or to beef up its shareholding in Housing Finance Bank.
Yes.
I get a mortgage. So whatever rent I am paying to Honorable Mara, and he takes it away, now I will be paying to redeem my mortgage and owning my house.
Yes.
Right.
So in 2035, when I get whatever balance will be there, I also have a house.
Yes.
I have paid fees. These are new products, by the way, the fund has come up with, but because of the legal limitations. So I'm expecting Patrick Ayota to reinvigorate and revive this conversation.
Yes.
We want to give the management and the board a little bit more flexibility.
That's right.
They can come back and you can say, what are the risks? How do you intend to address those risks?
Yes.
What if this person loses his job and was paying rent and the mortgage from the job, and they have lost the job? Okay, they have given us these other measures.
Yes.
So that's a conversation I would want to see, so that the money is safe.
Yes.
Quantitatively.
Yes.
also safe in value terms, but also is beginning to impact people to keep them safe up to when they get to 45 years or even 55 years.
Okay.
Keeping it in fixed income, 78% is a lazy business.
Lazy business.
Yes,
no doubt about
I mean, you just sit there and just put the thing there. Let's do some complex, but you know, with some risk mitigation. I think we'll do a lot of.
Okay, gentlemen, we are out of time.
That speaks to the caliber of the board needed there.
Okay.
Yeah.
We will not discuss that.
Okay, we won't go into that right now. Allow me give Honorable Paul O'Mara the chance to do a wrap for us, being a member of parliament who sits on the Committee for Finance.
Yes.
Right now, the economy is grappling with so much.
Yeah.
Of course, we are trying to come to terms with the fact that the World Bank has closed the tap. The President has made reassurances that we can do without, but there are fears that perhaps this is a little bit of lip service.
Yes.
That the reality on the ground is that, yes, we are going to be affected, just like Dr. Muhumuza has said, that we cannot get out of what the footprint has been established by the World Bank. As an economist and a member of parliament on the Finance Committee, what is the drive right now? Because members should be now sitting and rethinking models for which to operate as far as the economy is concerned, so we can be able to manage.
I only look at, maybe let's look at two things. One is the element of the macroeconomic stability. I think has been well maintained. Bank of Uganda is doing a great job. If you look at the inflation, has come down now to 3.6%. The exchange rate was coming down until the announcement of World Bank not funding us. That's when it went back to 3.7, but it was now coming to 3.5 something.
Yeah.
So exchange rate has been well maintained. Inflation well maintained. Bank of Uganda has lowered CBR. So which means Bank of Uganda is trying now to making sure that the macroeconomic environment is stable. The second one is basically our fiscal discipline, because we have Parliament has approved a budget which has been assented to by the President. The financial year July started, and what we are looking at is the promises that we have made. Shall the income statement balance? Because now that's the main thing. That some of the drivers of the economy, like Paris Development Model, we had put 1.1 trillion. I think we should be able to get that money and making sure that the grassroots economic empowerment happens, and we begin to look at certain key lines of the budget and make sure they are funded. Okay. And I think on the 1st of September, we're going to have a conversation with the Minister of Finance. The Committee of Finance, Budget, and National Economy will sit down with the team from the Minister of Finance, and we'll look at this budget and see priority areas so that we basically move on, we stabilize the economy. All right.
Honorable Paul O'Mara, MP Otuke County, and also member of the Finance Committee, many thanks for the perspective, and many thanks to you too, Dr. Fred Muhumuza, seasoned economist and commentator, for making time for MorningAtNTV today. It's been the Kickstarter discussion. We'll be discussing the waves in the Savers Fund, NSSF, what awaits the new Managing Director, Patrick Ayota, and whether the fund is finally on the road to redemption, or was redemption ever required for that matter. That's it. Priscilla Regina Naloga shall be at hand to discuss collaborations in mining for mutual benefit. So do replenish that cup of coffee and stay with us. We'll be right back.